and very much looking forward to listen to you, Fabian, your journey, how to find coherent compensation. The stage is yours. Yep, das genau. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome. It was 1 year ago when I started thinking about transforming my company to Steward-Ownership. And there were so many questions coming up. And one was, what is a fair founder compensation? Something that doesn't feel like a bad compromise for me. And you know, I built a company for 23 years, and it has a value of 44 million euro. And I get purchase offers each 3 months. And at the same time, I'm a social entrepreneur, and I think I'm a very idealistic person. And that let me feel very insecure when this topic was coming up. And I had a lot of emotions going on. So there was excitement, because I just think Steward-Ownership really rocks. I love it. And there was pride for what I've built up so far. But there was also fear of falling short, doing a big mistake. There was greed, because there's so much money in the room, and there was shame for feeling greedy, a whole big mess. And well, take all these ingredients and try to come up with a founder compensation. Surprise, it doesn't really work that well. So today I want to share my journey of how I found a compensation which sort of gave me inner peace, and a warning, it's going to be a bit personal. Yes. So some words about myself. My name is Fabian. I'm father of 3 children. I'm founder of Schoolcraft and Nexus Social Business Ventures. Schoolcraft is a social business where we create a software for primary school teachers. And we are a market leader. We have about 500,000 licenses sold in German-speaking countries. And Nexus is my holding, which is my next step, where I want to use the money also to build and finance new social businesses in the future. And I'm talking about transforming Nexus, the holding, to Steward-Ownership. And for me, a company is like a living entity. You know, it has a purpose and it has own needs. But unfortunately, companies can't speak for themselves, so they need advocates to speak for them. And that's why I love Steward-Ownership, because with its purpose orientation and the self-determination, it basically turns owners into advocates. And that's why I want to transform and will transform Nexus to Steward-Ownership. So let's dive a bit deeper. When starting looking to founder compensation, I started by laying out 3 areas: the personal needs, the needs of the company, and the personal achievements. And I mean, that sounds easy. You take the personal needs and you match them with the company needs, and then you add the personal achievements, and then there's the Excel sheet and there's a number, and you have it. Yeah, unfortunately, no, didn't work. Because the problem wasn't the numbers, the problem was me and my funny, weird emotions I showed you before. And what really helped me is to identify the conflicting voices inside of me. And yeah, it's going to be a bit personal, but I assume that you might have similar issues. Identify the conflicting voices and sort of assign the emotions to them, and then listen to each voice carefully. So unfortunately, you will have to look inside of me a bit. I'm sorry for that, but so welcome. Here's the idealist in me. It's the crazy guy. He loves Steward-Ownership, and he really thinks like money is not that important at all. But there is also the entrepreneur inside of me. It's the one who loves freedom, who loves to build new companies, and who is proud of what he's achieved so far, and he wants to have a fair reward for what he's done. And unfortunately, there's also some kind of greed in this guy, yeah. And the third player in the room, the most important one, is the one I call inner Fabian. It's sort of my inner compass. Like, he's full of empathy, but he's also full of fear. So he has questions like, oh, what if I fall short when doing that? What if this is a big mistake, biggest in my life? Or what if one of my children gets horribly sick and I could use the money to help it, but I can't access the company value anymore? But also, what if I take a founding compensation and my friends think I'm really greedy? Or why should I deserve a compensation at all? And the key for me was to listen to each of these voices really carefully, which is something painful sometimes, Matti knows that, and to find a model which works for all of them. Because only then I can find inner peace. And I mean, that step is sort of non-reversible, so I really want to have inner peace with that decision. All right, so how did I do that more practically? It's easy, it's like that. So my first draft was, okay, I take $500,000 for my pension and I get a universal basic income for 20 years. The entrepreneur thought like, wow, that's cool. The idealist said, no way, that's totally greedy and unfair. So no, it didn't work. So what I did is I made it more transparent in the second step. I sort of listed components with the help of Matti and said, okay, what's the salary I didn't get so far, the vacation I didn't take, investments I spent, what's the risk I took, the experience I brought in, the fact that I owned something, and I assigned a number to each of it and then took the Excel sheet, but yeah, and had a number which was the founder compensation, and that was better, but it had two problems. One, some things are hardly measurable. How do you measure experience? And the second problem is I didn't take any interest rate, any risk-adjusted interest rate into account. And why didn't I take, like 23 years, why didn't I take an interest rate which was risk-adjusted into account? Because with that, the number was really high, and that high number didn't feel good. So shame was speaking. So in the third draft, I kicked everything which wasn't measurable. And the only left components were the salary I didn't take, the vacation I didn't take, and the financial investment I made. But I added the risk-adjusted interest rate because it's just fair. If an investor would have paid that money, he also would have had like some kind of interest rate. That one was the first one where all three voices sort of agreed. But there was one weird thing. I designed it in a way that I split the payment over multiple years, although Schoolcraft has like enough money to pay it at once. And Matti asked me, why? And again, the reason was the number was so high that a one-time payment felt bad. So shame was speaking again. And in the end, the final solution for me is a one-time payment for the salary I didn't take, the vacation I didn't take, the financial investment I made with a risk-adjusted interest rate. And with that one, the entrepreneur was happy because he gets his fair reward. He says, yeah, that's cool. The idealist says, yeah, it doesn't harm the company at all, and it's fair. And the inner Fabian, he at least knew that all his fears have been heard. So what did I learn from that? Quite a lot. First of all, I had to acknowledge that I had lots of conflicting voices and unhelpful beliefs inside of me, like greed or guilt of success. And they weren't really helpful, and I had to identify them and listen to them, but not give them control. That was crucial. And the second learning for me in terms of founder compensation is that it is hard. It is just hard, and usually, for me it was hard, okay, I can say that. And usually it's solved by the market. I mean, you get an evaluation of the company, and that's the money you get, like in my case, whatever, 45 million, but not with Steward-Ownership, because with Steward-Ownership, luckily, a company is not just a value, it's much more than a value. But once it's much more than a value, I think it just gets tricky. And the third thing, I think the most important one for me, was a huge change in perspective. So in the beginning, my question was, what do I get for giving up all these rights? Like, no exit, no profit. But in the end, my question was, what is a value that feels right for me? Or rather, what is a value that aligns with my values? And I mean, now I get much, 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 much less than the company's worth, but it really feels just right now, the way I did it. And finally, Matti and Lisa asked me if I can share some advice. I think it's not easy because it's a very personal journey and your situation might be totally different. But if I had to share some advice, what I would tell you is, first of all, accept the ambiguity. You will have mixed feelings in the beginning, and that's totally fine. It's a process. You won't need a solution right away. And the second thing, yes, look at the numbers, but also look inside of yourself and do your inner work. Because only with that look into yourself, you will find I think you will find something that's coherent to you, something which you can live for with the rest of your life. And third, don't believe everything you think. Some of your emotions and ideas might be good, but some might be steered by fear or greed, and they're just not true. And that leads to the fourth suggestion: get help. Don't do it alone. Having somebody who gently challenges your beliefs really makes all the difference. And I want to thank Matti for being that person for me. We had a long, long journey really together. So, in one way, founder conversation is about what you get, but I think not really. It's all about what feels right and what feels coherent and what gives you inner peace in the end. So I hope this insight into my journey was helpful. If you have any questions, I guess I will stand over there later on. And thanks for listening.